Joining us now, Independent Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Senator, thank you so much for coming on this morning. I would like to ask you, what would it take? What do you think is needed for the Democratic nominee to beat Donald Trump? There seems to be some conflicting news out there. Are you looking to challenge Kamala Harris for the nomination?
No, I'm not intending to run for any political office, and I've made that very clear. I'm retiring. But I'm going to be involved, and I like to have a voice, and I think I speak for the majority of Americans who are in the middle like me. 51% of us are registered to participate and vote, but we're independents. Only 23% of the base is a Democrat and 25% Republican. And unless you can talk and understand where we're coming from, we want to see all-inclusive. I was hoping that with the decision that President Biden made, that there would be a primary, that we could find out where the cream of the crop of the new generation. And I was hoping for that, Mika. And you've had a few of them on, which I know, Roy Cooper, I got Andy Beshear, Josh and Shapiro and Gretchen and Mr. Pritzker and all of these. These are all good people. It would have been great to see what their thoughts were. And I think it would have strengthened Kamala if she hadn't to come out on top. She'd have been strengthened. Joe Biden came out of a very contentious primary, as you recall, in 2020, Mika. But when it finally came down to it, he was the only one that said, I can bring people together because I've done it for 35 years in the Senate. I know how to work on both sides. He was the centrist moderate. And guess what? He won. So we'll see what happens.
So the one thing I'll say, I'll just kind of debate with you a little bit.
Okay.
None of those people that you mentioned have been part of a winning presidential administration that has beat Trump. And wouldn't it be strange if Joe Biden overlooked his own vice president, part of a historic administration that has had more legislative accomplishments than any president in modern history? Do you believe Kamala Harris has the skills and the ability to prosecute the case against Donald Trump?
If it's only about Donald Trump and trying to demonize him even more, and they have nothing else to go on, it's not a good winning. I don't think it's a winning solution. I really don't. We want to see how you broaden out. Well, I'm just saying, we know who Donald Trump is. He basically confirmed who he was at the end of the convention, okay? And he has not recognized, basically, the orderly transfer of power, the election. He has not basically recognized the insurrection. He's threatened concerns over, basically, are we going to support Ukraine or not? And then the rule of law, the judiciary. So those concerns are still there. But people know that. And they know what they're getting there. What they don't know is through a contested primary, which I was hoping there'd be some form of a mini primary. Other countries do it and do it very successfully in a very short period of time. And only in America, Mika, do you have the next election start the day after the last election. So I think it was all doable, but they made a decision not to. And it is going to be hard to find out where, where things have changed. And you're saying they were voting for Joe Biden. It's the top of the ticket. It's not the VP. The VP helps, okay? But it's the top of the ticket they were voting for. And I was part of every one of those pieces of legislation, bipartisan legislation. And I was also very much involved in the IRA and writing all that energy portion of that. So I know what it takes for these pieces of policy that can work and should work. We're producing more energy than ever in the history of our country. But the administration doesn't talk about that. I haven't heard Kamala talk about it. And we've done some great things, but it's a balanced approach. And if you're not accepting a balance, then you're going to have a problem.
Senator, good morning. Good to have you back on the show. You mentioned Governor Beshear and Governor Shapiro in the last couple of days as people you'd like to see at the top of the ticket. As you just said, yesterday, Governor Shapiro endorsed Kamala Harris. Just a few minutes ago on this show, Governor Beshear of Kentucky endorsed Vice President Harris at the top of the ticket. So now you say you are not running and your preferred choices have endorsed Kamala Harris. Will you endorse Vice President Harris?
Well, I want to see what her platform is and her positions. I want to see where she ends up on that, which I think is rational. And since we're not going to have any type of a primary process, I don't fault these very accomplished governors and people that have been considering and maybe now are being considered as a VP. You know, that's the new generation. They didn't want to commit suicide by jumping out when everybody was moving in that direction. But I think when you talk to Nancy Pelosi and you think about Barack Obama, who thinks that that would strengthen by having a process, an open process, we have a primary, and then coalesce around whoever the strongest person was would have been away, and that could have helped Kamala.
Senator Manchin, you famously, at times, did not always agree with President Biden during the last 3.5 years. But would you give us your assessment, please, as to what you think his legacy will be as president, which includes his decision yesterday to step away from the race?
Well, let me speak. And I said this with a heavy heart yesterday. My goodness, this is a good man. And he's been a friend for a long time, and we've been able to agree and disagree. And I always said this when he sees me and he says, "Hey, Jojo, how's it going?" I know he's okay. And then when he says, "Hey, Joe, what's up?" I know that we have a little bit of a challenge we got to get through. And we've always been able to navigate that, and that's what I love about him. He's pretty special along those lines. He made the right decision for himself, for his family, but most importantly for our country. And I think he has a chance, and I've said this before, he has a chance now to spend 100% of his time trying to get peace in the Middle East, trying to basically solidify Ukraine's position to win freedom, and also to be able to show the rest of the world how the superpower transfers their power in an orderly, dignified, compassionate way. I think it could be unbelievable, his legacy. And I only hope the best for him.
Independent Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, thank you very much for being on this morning.
Well, let's thank all of you for the process and make sure that we have a robust process if possible.
All right. Thank you, sir, very much. Coming up,